now live.
Thank you. Welcome everybody to our work session of Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. Can I please have a motion to open the work session?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are going to start with a discussion of creation of a civic engagement advisory committee. And we had spoken about this a few weeks ago, when John Garfunkel was here, and he had come to us with this idea. I think it's a great idea, and the thought behind it was to really encourage civic participation, communication, transparency with all residents, and to make sure that things that we're looking at can be effectively communicated so that our community knows what's going on. Is more than just reading our supervisor's report and looking at our agendas, etc. So we have a resolution that's prepared in the packet that I hope everyone got a chance to look at. And I really just wanted to get thoughts on that opinion. Ed, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, the content in the resolution comes from, I think it was an email thread that would have been in the packet 2 weeks ago
Yep,
with the
it was.
suggestions of the mission for the new committee.
It was, and the thought would be it's much like forming any other new committee where we form it, then we're gonna advertise for participants, and we'll get those participants, we'll interview, we'll assign a board liaison to that committee and get them up and running.
Do we have any thoughts about how, like, a minimum number to make it a go?
Not really, I mean, frankly, one person, if they really wanted to and was very passionate about it, could probably do a lot. So I think we're generally more worried with the upper limit because a committee too large can't actually function.
Right.
But I mean, honestly, I think we'd probably realistically need like 3 people.
I had some thoughts about this first. I think it's a great idea. I mean, we do wanna promote good communications from us and transparency and improve civic engagement in the community. But I feel that instead of initially just establishing a committee, sort of, because the committees get established sort of in perpetuity, I thought that we might test out exactly what this group would do by making it a task force initially instead of a committee, and having a civic engagement task force for a period of maybe a year or so. We could discuss it, with a list of deliverables similar to what's in the resolution, and then which would then end with a report and recommendations to the town board. And then at that point, we could decide whether to form a permanent committee or not, because at this time, I'd like to see what they're going to produce and how they're going to interact with other committees. And so we could go through all of the elements in the resolution, but I just thought I would throw out that idea just to test the waters and so that they can themselves establish which direction they're going to go in, because there are a lot of directions here. From improving communications to looking at other committees themselves. We could talk about all of those, but I just thought I would throw out the idea of a task force to start this off.
Well, look, I think that we can always have, terms of the committee members don't need to be 5-year terms. They can be short terms as well, and if it doesn't work, you don't need to reseat a committee. We've had committees that we no longer have anymore, just because it's not necessarily in perpetuity. But I think by making it a committee, it shows our commitment to want to foster communication with residents and ensure that we really, engage all of our residents in all meaningful issues before the board.
Right, I mean, to me, it just seemed like the charge of the committee would lend itself to, having specific deliverables. So for instance, evaluating existing emerging technologies. I mean, that's something that people could do, but I don't know that they would go on doing it in perpetuity. I mean, it would behoove us to do it at certain intervals in time. But I just thought that some of these action pieces are a little bit vague. And I mean, I just want to know what other people think in terms of doing a task force with specific deliverables within a time frame, with the option of creating a committee.
Sure.
Go ahead, and I wanna jump in front of,
I was wondering what the difference is between a task force and a committee. Sorry, I'm just unclear as to why that matters.
Yeah, a task force has a specific charge and it's for a specific period of time. And then they come out with usually a report that's given to the organization charging the task force. So they would come out with a report and recommendations to the town board after a specific period of time. Whereas a committee is just ongoing work, month to month, week to week. And it just kind of just continues like any other committee that we have. This is more action oriented.
I guess then I would wonder,
I actually want it to continue in perpetuity, frankly, because I think communication is something that should continue in perpetuity. I know what you're saying, like a task force is if you want to, we
More
need to look
goal-oriented.
at a task force on how we can build whatever. And somebody can look at that specific thing. To me, this is much broader than that. And yes, the mission is a little vaguer because it's not a specific task. We actually want to increase communication forever. And practices are gonna change, what we're going to need is gonna change. So I actually see it more as a committee. I don't see what's wrong with having a committee.
There's nothing
We've certainly
wrong.
have committees that have looked at coyotes and looked at, many different things. So I think it shows our commitment that we actually want it to be ongoing,
I
but
used to joke with Rob all the time.
I know, there were a lot of committees.
Oh, let's have a committee. That was kind of a running joke with him. And sometimes I was wrong, and sometimes I was right, but the purpose is certainly a valid one, but I think to Vicky's point, do we need every year someone to be surveying best practices? Are we creating a committee to find issues sometimes where there may not be issues? Every year to be examining or on a monthly or bi-annually basis, or as long as this committee is going to meet, to recommend new software tools and emerging technologies. I think if there's issues that we have now, maybe that's, what are these issues? Have maybe assign people to say, here are our issues with more specificity. Like this, I have a problem because you're not doing this right, and here's how we think we can fix it. I don't know the first thing about software, so I'm the wrong person for that, but anyone who's gonna get appointed, I presume would be familiar with software. So why not have someone maybe identify the problems, and then once you identify the problems, then maybe create the community, but not so vague. I mean, what are these real issues?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say, yeah.
So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, am I opposed to a committee? No, but to make the jokes I made with Rob, the committee for the sake of a committee.
See, I don't think we have a problem. That's the difference here. I don't think it's something that we're looking to solve. We're looking to better our communication on an ongoing basis and make sure maybe there are people that aren't getting our messages or aren't understanding things. And does it mean that software needs to be looked at every month? Of course not. Just like the BAB isn't looking at brand new snowflakes every winter. They've done that, now they're moving to something else. They would look at software, but then to the extent, software is sort of like medicine, it's constantly evolving. So to have somebody who's constantly staying on top of this, we were here, but now there's a much better way to do this, maybe we should look at this. Or we need to make sure we're getting all the neighborhoods involved, or whatever it may be. To me, communication is something that's always going to be ongoing. And yes, it may change based on what's important at the time, just like, the CREI was committed. They have was just formed as a committee. They have goals that they need to, general goals, nothing necessarily specific that this is a task you must do, but it's ongoing because it's something that's important to the town
No,
board
that's
on an
different.
ongoing basis.
But the CREI
Whereas-
was formed in that model, you had the
Right.
CRE as a, not a committee, but a
Right,
what
but
was it,
honestly, if it had been one committee that
council.
kept going, it might have,
yeah,
we
but
might be
it was
doing
set
more
up,
things faster.
it was set up for a year and then we set up the committee after their recommendations came through. And they did tremendous work and we had great recommendations and we formed a committee.
But
based on
to
those
let me finish
recommendations.
the thought is that this is
Sure.
something like equity and inclusion, communication with residents to make sure all of our residents are always informed is something that I think we also need to continue all the time. So I don't see it necessarily as a task force, like we need you to figure out how to redo our website.
But
That to me is a task force.
that's exactly what
This
it
is-
says here. It says,
Well, let me,
okay.
can I finish speaking?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
So, there are things that, yes, are tasks, how can we get that out there more? But I think it's ongoing because if we're putting out things like we're gonna be talking about community engagement sessions. So we wanna make sure that everyone's getting involved. This would be something to use that committee for. Then maybe people aren't realizing when our meetings are, or things about warming centers, or whatever it may be in terms of communication. We wanna get neighborhoods involved. We wanna make sure every different type of cultural community in town is getting, information. We wanna make sure our seniors are getting information, because maybe they can't do that by Facebook or whatever it is. To me, this is something that is ongoing to encourage civic communication, participation, and volunteerism through the town. It's something that's gonna continue actually for forever.
Well, I'm looking at the actual resolution. I mean, having a communications committee is something different. But here, for instance, it says very specifically, evaluating existing and emerging technologies, organizational practices, reviewing and recommending information technology tools like best survey software, improving the town website and social media use. So those are things that I don't think go on in perpetuity. As contrasted, for example, with best practice to encourage civic communication. Okay, so communication issues are separate from these very, very specific tasks of evaluating emerging technologies. Or
Did you read 6 and 7 though? It's on the next page.
right, so those are different. So those are the ones that have to do with communication, but then there are very specific items here about evaluating emerging IT practices.
Yeah, I think it's all included.
Yeah,
I mean, I personally would love to see a reboot of the Parks and Rec website, make it easier and more user-friendly, cause it's really could be better. So
Yeah.
however we get to that, task force, committee, I'm indifferent as to how we get there, but
Yeah,
there's
I just-
definitely some better, more effective ways for us to be communicating and making our websites and things more user-friendly, I think, especially, we talked about putting an electronic version of the master plan on there, talking about community outreach. I'm new to the committee task force thing. I agree, Jeremy, it does seem like we have committee for everything. But if that's how we further a goal, I'm all for it.
And there are
Yeah.
people interested in
Yeah, if
all
there are
different
people-
things,
it could be
so-
either or.
If there are
yeah.
people that wanna do it, I tip my hat to anybody who ever wants to get involved in something, especially if it's in service of the town and the community, and there are definitely things that we could improve upon. I guess how we get there, I'm indifferent to that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, I was curious to see what a task force would bring to us in terms of recommendation to then figure out what a committee would really look like and what their charge
can a
would
committee
be.
not give recommendations? I mean, I think
course
a
they
committee
can.
can do the same, I guess,
We're
I just feel
calling
like
it
we're
an
splitting
advisory
hairs.
board, we're
Yeah,
calling it an
I feel like we're
advisory board.
splitting hairs.
Well, we may be, it's just that there's certain aspects of this that seem a little vague. So for instance,
So what do you wanna change on it?
Yeah, what can we
collecting,
change?
so number 3, if you take a look, it says collecting and sharing best practices in promoting civic engagement among other town advisory boards and groups. So does that mean that this committee would then take part in other advisory boards and groups?
No, I
And
think
figure
what
out
that's
what
meant
does
to
that mean?
mean is that helping all of our committees figure out the best way to communicate their initiatives to the public.
Oh, like not other towns, but within
No,
our
within our-
town.
So
Within
this
our
committee,
town.
so
Got
this
it.
committee would then go into
Yeah,
other.
our town, not other
Yeah.
towns.
Yeah, so then they would be charged with going into other committees and sort of assessing them.
No, they wouldn't. They would be
I
charged
don't
to
know
say,
if I read it
hey,
like that.
committee A,
Yeah,
are you feeling, they may ask them, hey, committee, are you feeling like, you want a better way to get your messages out? Or
Why don't
maybe
the
we
committees
wanna,
come to us? I mean, these are
well,
adults,
but
right? I mean,
but it's a way, so we
Why?
have Facebook pages, we have to make it all cohesive, like every committee seems to have a Facebook page. I don't know that they're really supposed to. They're supposed to really have a page within our website to communicate things. But in terms of outreach, there's the SAB is having cleanup day, or the BAB, they're all having cleanup day.
Yeah. And they
How
did
are we
talk-
making sure to get
talk about
that out there? Or our rec programs, or Center Street, was Supper on Center was like fabulous the first year. Last year, not so great. This because the message didn't get out. So how are we getting those messages out? So I don't know that it's they're going in and taking over committees. I think it's really just trying to foster communication and how is the best way to make sure the messages of our committees are getting out to the public.
I guess part of the response may very well be, if this is gonna move forward, if it turns out that it doesn't do anything, then the response is it's the functional equivalent of a task force and then it's just dissolved.
Right.
I don't know,
I mean,
now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, I kind of like the idea of, some of these things that they're going to do, having a deliverable associated with it to, what is the recommendation? Because I don't think we want to say that an ongoing objective is to recommend technologies, because they could be coming to us every 3 months saying, oh, this new thing is coming out. I feel like there are some things that are more task force like, and then there are some things that are more committee like.
But that's with every committee, I think. Like our airport advisory board is looking at specific things related to the airport, and then they have more general tasks as well.
But they're not
And they're a
really,
committee,
but
they're
they're
a
not
board.
really taking a survey of options out there and then making recommendations. I feel like you could get
They have.
like of other towns and stuff.
No, they're not talking about going to other.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if you're looking at best practices about encouraging communication, participation, volunteering, technologies, inevitably you're looking outside of our town.
Okay, fair, yeah.
I don't know, I mean, I think some
But
of
a lot
them.
of our committees do that, like the SAB is like, well, what's Scarsdale doing, what's Armonk doing, what's Bedford doing? Like they all do that to see best practices for everything.
Right, I don't know, I mean, I honestly, I'm not super wedded to either one, but I can see the benefit of setting it up on a shorter term with certain deliverables, to kind of have a goal that gets achieved to move forward, instead of what could potentially happen is a committee like this could spin its wheels for a really long time because you never have a due date.
But that's why you need a good liaison and a good chair who's gonna do that. Like, we have plenty of committees that spin their wheels and don't actually get things done when they really should be getting things
Yeah.
done. So that's why you need an
Yeah.
effective chair and an effective board liaison
Yeah.
for those committees.
I mean, I think the point is you could do it either way. You
Yeah.
can try to do it structurally by forming a task force, or by leadership with having the right leaders. I think that there's two options, and maybe it's just the way we want to approach it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If we're concerned about, what are gonna be the objectives and how do we achieve them, is there a way for us to put like a check-in period for this committee and see if have they been able to provide us with some information? Are there things that we need to change? Is there a date in mind for when we wanna see these things? I guess everyone seems to feel like is this gonna be an effective committee? I think we're all kind of saying like, we're happy with it being a committee or a task force as long as we feel like they're gonna get something done. Is there a way to
But
ensure
why are we
that?
approaching committee assuming they're not gonna get stuff done?
I'm
Like,
not.
These,
I'm
the
not. I
people
don't
on
know
this
that
committee are
anybody
gonna
is.
be passionate about it.
Yeah.
And it's really up to the committee to decide what they wanna come to us. It's an advisory board, just like we've so many other advisory
Sure.
boards, and they come to us with suggestions. It's our job to decide if we wanna take those suggestions or not, or lead them in a different direction.
What
You
about-
know?
That's true.
Alternatively, we could send something to these, our committees for our own audit, just saying, committee, what are you doing, what's in store? For example, I was talking with Ken for the SAB,
Mhm.
and I said, Ken, can you help me get a list of what's coming up, what's been shelved, what you'd like to see? So if we all respectively sent our requests to our individual committees, we can probably get more than having someone else do it for us and then report to us. Right? So
That's fair.
Yeah, but that's not what they were gonna do. They weren't gonna be our liaisons
I
to
know,
all the
I recognize,
committees, they
but
were
some of
just
the
gonna
things-
talk about how can we effectively communicate, events or whatever it may be.
So this is what worries me. We're unclear even amongst ourselves about what this number 3 means with how this committee would interact with other town advisory boards. And even within this new committee, they might also differ on what exactly they're doing. So one of the aspects I'm worried about is what exactly is the understanding for certain of these charges, and I'd like to see that play out. I'd like to see it play out in a certain period of time with deliverables. And there are obviously things here that are very valuable to us on an ongoing basis, but there are things that are really more of a one-shot deal and things that are also unclear, like paragraph 3. So that's why I would like to make this a task force with clear deliverables within a specific time frame. And just like we did with the CRE and CREI, then determine exactly what direction we would want it to move in more in perpetuity. Rather than creating something in perpetuity where many of these goals are a little bit unclear at this time. I think the goals are laudable and important to us as a town, but it's just a question of getting something started on the right foot. And I'm not assuming at all that people won't get things done. They will, but I'd like to see a more direct charge with a time frame to it.
I
And
hear
I
what you're
don't
saying.
think that would hurt, but with the intention, I would have the intention of continuing the committee.
Yeah,
But I'd like to get more clarity on exactly what they're going to do.
yeah, I hear what you're saying, I completely disagree. But I just, because I don't think it's a project where we're saying, we want to do X, please figure out how we're gonna do exactly what X is. I think this is much more kind of amorphous, and we talking about communication is not necessarily something like, we need to redo our website. Here, give us figure out how we're gonna do this, find us vendors, figure this out. I think it's much more general, they're gonna have to talk to groups. Are you feeling like you're getting, the communication you need? And I think it's ongoing, and it's not as, it is a little vaguer, and I think it's gonna be up to the committee to decide, as many of our committees do, what they need to focus on, to be an advisory board. And I don't know that it's so specific that we have deliverables. I don't know what those deliverables are necessarily gonna be, and I don't know that they're specifically ground to one objective. I think it's such a long objective and there's so many variables that I think you leave it to a committee of passionate residents who want to improve engagement in our community to do that.
Sometimes
It's very
I
specific
feel-
here. It says improving the town website. So there's a town website, and as Ally pointed out, there's the rec website.
That's one of the
That's
7
one of
things
them.
in here.
The other one is evaluating existing and emerging technologies and recommending information technology tools. That's again another very specific charge.
I think there are specific and vague things in here.
Sometimes I feel like if there's a very specific thing that you're looking for, you can't see the forest through the trees, right? So there then becomes this missed opportunity if you're not able to engage with the other committees and you're not able to kind of workshop different ideas and different solutions, and you're married to like, well, we have to fix items 1, 2, and 3. You only focus on items 1, 2, and 3 instead of leaving open the possibility that maybe there was some item 4 that you missed completely altogether, and hey, look, now it's an opportunity to do something about it. So I'm with Holly, I'm not like married to one over the other. I see the benefits and the downsides to both. I just don't wanna like keep going around and around and around on this
If I'm
tonight.
pressed,
Mhm.
if I'm pressed and say I have to pick one, I think I'd say task force, but that's
How-
only if I'm forced.
How about maybe
Kinda
to make
different.
things more efficient, if we reach out to our respective committees with a list of questions and not to add burden to our tremendous and amazing staff and supervisor or pardon me,
We
administrator.
could let this committee do that for us.
But they're gonna answer back to us so we can understand what we're looking at and then tighten up or a committee or whatever to make it more relevant.
Or how about here's one more option. We could have a communications committee to look at all of these ongoing communication issues and then have a task force to look at emerging technologies and fixing the, improving the websites.
I just think if we have residents that really wanna do this as an
Yeah, I don't
advisory board,
disagree.
why are we saying, no, you can't? I would say, yes, you wanna do this, do it, come back to us with what you think. If they end up being completely ineffectual, which I don't think they will be, then they are. I don't know why we're kind of pushing back against this with residents who really want to help increase participation and engagement and communication.
I mean, John isn't here to
His wife had surgery, so
No,
he's
I'm
in
just,
Manhattan.
no criticism about that, but what I'm saying is that, he's kind of the one who's been spearheading this. I feel like maybe his voice, he may have never considered a task force. He may,
Yeah.
if he heard us saying this, he may say, that makes a lot more sense than a board.
Good point.
I don't think anyone's saying no, I think it's more how it's crafted and how it's crafted, I think that
And
that's
you-
Exactly, I was gonna
What
say,
were
this
you
is
gonna
by
say?
no means a pushing back, this is how to best structure the work here.
I was gonna offer a suggestion, might be helpful just in terms of process. So this was always gonna be a two-step affair because we weren't gonna appoint anyone tonight.
No.
I imagine there would be interviews
Yes.
and then we would come back, the board would come back and consider another resolution. Having done that, that would appoint members, we would figure out the length of the terms, et cetera. Maybe this resolution could be revised to indicate that, not that the advisory committee is being fully formed at this moment, but the board is looking to establish this committee and exploring these points as part of its mission statement. That could be set and voted on tonight, the board could do those interviews, and when it's ready to come back and actually appoint the members, we could at that point clarify and refine exactly what you were tasking them with. Maybe at that point, it would evolve into a task force, or maybe it would stay the way it is now and just be a committee, but with slightly different or the same points here.
Well, we've also let other committees we've tasked them with within 90 days, you have to come up with your mission statement. We've done that as well and what you're gonna do. I
And that
don't
could
love
be
that,
an
but we could do
That
that.
could be an option too.
I'm open to be creative and this shouldn't take up too much of our
Yeah,
brain capacity.
totally agree.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a good
Sure.
solution.
So appoint it as is, and then when we're gonna appoint members, we'll decide if we wanna revise the resolution.
And to Holly's point too, let the person who wants to create this, maybe he has a strong feeling one way or another, or maybe he doesn't.
I mean, he was here last week, or last time we spoke about it.
Yeah, a few weeks ago.
But I don't think that we kind of
We didn't have these
pondered
questions.
the
Mhm.
concept of a task force, so I mean, I'd love to involve him in that
Same.
conversation.
Same, he feels, very passionately about this, so I'm
Yeah, I'd
good-
like to hear from him too.
I'm good with that
Yeah.
suggestion too.
So
Just shelf
say
it.
your suggestion again is we're adopting this, but
We could
we can
revise it.
revise it when we do the appointments and interview people?
Right, so example, in the second whereas, instead of saying wishes to establish, you could say wishes to explore establishing, and then have these as forward looking, like these are the points that the board is considering tasking this new advisory
So
committee
then
with.
what's the point of a resolution?
Well, just that you said
Something we wanna think about maybe doing a resolution?
You would create the resolution, and I hear you, you could create the resolution, but just have these 7 points as sort of more of a work in progress.
Well, why
I
don't
would
we
say
wait
we
until
do it
John
and
can
just
be
add
here?
one more resolution, just saying we can, revise this and revisit as we discuss it with members who will be appointed to this board.
Appointees.
Well, the thing is, it's not like time is of the essence here, why don't we wait until John comes back? And since he's the one leading the charge, I would like to talk to him to see whether he thinks that a 1-year commitment is good for him and
I know he does not think a 1-year commitment is enough, that this
Well,
should be
I
an
would like-
ongoing
yeah.
committee.
well, I'd like to
He said that last time he was here, I
I'd like
believe.
for us to be able to go through it with him.
So what do you think, Ed?
I was marking this up, the objectives and mission shall tentatively include, just to indicate that this is still open for discussion.
And then add a resolution that we will revisit it once we've discussed with appointees, committee appointees.
Yeah, well, the next step would be those discussions and interviews, and then
Right.
when you come back to this, you could be appointing members and again refining whatever these
Okay,
deliverables are.
so can you put those couple
look it up.
changes in there? Okay, that's great,
Thank you.
Alright, so now we are moving on to a statement against book bans. So, as you all know, we have the 10th anniversary of the Chappaqua Children's Book Festival in town this year. And there are a lot of municipalities and states and libraries that have been banning books lately in our nation, not here. So, Dawn Greenberg approached us and said, wouldn't it be great if the town board basically issued a ban against book bans, or a statement against book bans where that's something I know very important in our community where we, put education at the center of a lot of our values, and we actually have authors who will be presenting at the Chappaqua Children's Book Festival this year whose books already have been banned by other states. So I propose this resolution, which I drafted from doing research from other municipalities and libraries who have issued statements against book bans. So that's where this came from. It's kind of an amalgamation of what made sense from all those. Ed edited that, we sent this to you. So this is a proposal, certainly open to discussing, no pride of authorship here at all. What you guys think about this resolution and specifically and then in generally what you think about a statement against book bans.
Yeah, I'm 100% in favor of the statement against book bans.
This should be
I think
pretty
it would be,
controversial.
would we be the first municipality to do it?
I think we would be the first municipality in
exciting.
Westchester, which is very
I
exciting.
think that's great,
So
so.
So Holly's passing around some proposed changes here.
yeah, so I love this idea and I love the book festival being
Mhm.
here. And as I was doing some reading beforehand, I was remarking at how many books that I've read in my life or my children have read that appear in the last 2 years of recently challenged and banned books like The Bluest Eye, The Hate You Give, To Kill a Mockingbird. I mean, these so as I was thinking about that, I was actually hoping we could maybe make this a little bit stronger. So the places where I've put some arrows are maybe some things to consider adding.
So this is, I'm sorry, just to interrupt you one sec. So everything that's not an arrow is the current
That's
resolution?
what's there, yeah.
Okay.
I was looking at the American Library Association, their Office of Intellectual Freedom,
Mhm.
and some of this comes from that
Great.
recommendation. So, I mean, do you want me just.
Is the freedom to read actually protected from our Constitution?
You know, I put it in there to discuss.
I don't know if that's in the,
it's
I
not-
don't know if that's in the
It's not explicitly
Constitution.
enumerated.
Well, I had another more broad
Yeah,
idea.
but I
I was,
appreciate you
I
doing this.
took a
Thank
look
you.
at,
It was in there, but.
Well, why don't we finish here before we
Sure.
turn to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, these are just things that I pulled out, that the freedom to read is essential to our democracy, and reading is among one of our greatest freedoms. I thought that was a little bit stronger. Intellectual freedom is essential to the preservation of a free society and a creative culture. And then in the whereas where we said removing and banning books, I think it said like public libraries or something. I was just
I like your change better.
yeah, so that's what I was thinking, is that maybe we're saying that banning from public access could lead to,
Mhm.
rather than a slippery slope. And then I don't know, this might be a little bit too much, but whereas some individuals, groups, and public authorities work to remove or limit access to reading materials, to censor content in schools, to label controversial views, to distribute lists of objectionable books or authors, and to purge libraries of materials reflecting the diversity of society. Maybe it's a little bit too much, but I wanted to throw it out there for conversation.
So just looking at this quickly, I actually would propose not including your first arrow, cause
No problem.
I don't know if that's actually protected, but I like 2, 3, the access thing. And I have to, the bottom one might be a little strong, but I don't necessarily mind it.
I have no objection, I share your concern or issue with the first one, but other than that, I think it's fabulous.
Well, I wanna thank Holly for doing this and for, you know, putting on the record some of the books that she's come across that have been banned, cause those are books that I've read and I'm sure my children will read, and it's really shocking to hear that To Kill a Mockingbird is, you know, being banned, Bluest Eyes, The Hate You Give, all of those books. My only issue with that last clause is it is strong, but it's also some individuals, groups, or public authorities. That's, I don't know. What individuals? It sounds like so nefarious. No one in Newcastle is trying to do that. I don't know. It
Yeah.
just seems like a little bit of a, maybe like a step too far for the town board, for a resolution we're passing, that's all. But in general, I am supportive of this and I appreciate that you added this tonight.
I mean, I think this is somewhat kind of a definition of a ban.
Yeah,
I don't know that we need to define
Right,
that.
I don't
think
know
could
that
just
we
say,
necessarily need
we
that one.
support access to, you know. I liked the second, whereas the freedom to read is essential to our democracy and among our greatest freedoms, and intellectual freedom, I love that addition. I think just, you know, I don't
And
know that we
in
need to
the-
go as far.
In the
That's just
bottom,
me.
the last resolution, I think I would add the word supports and, the town of Newcastle supports and respects the right of all residents to access a variety of books.
The town board and the town of Scottsdale stands to.
Supports and respects the right. It's the last resolved.
Okay.
Vicky, do you have thoughts you were gonna say?
well, I think it's all great, and thank you, Lisa, for drafting this, and Holly for
Yeah, thank you.
giving us something in writing. I was looking around too, and I think that all the libraries probably got their talking points from, there's Unite Against Book Bans website that has a lot of these talking points that I think people use, so it's great to not have to recreate the wheel, and we're all trying to say the same thing. I did think that, to Holly's point about reflecting on the Constitution at the beginning, rather than reading, I had jotted down some things. Among the first whereas clauses, I would put, whereas the town of Newcastle is committed to upholding the constitutional rights of citizens to the free exchange of ideas and access to knowledge and information. So I think that's referring to the Constitution in a general way, within the rights granted by the First Amendment, even though I don't refer to the First Amendment. But it's sorry I didn't write it out here, but
Can you read that again?
whereas the town of Newcastle is committed to upholding the constitutional rights
Wait.
of citizens
Yeah,
to the free exchange of ideas
okay.
and access to knowledge and information. Sorry. You can cross out some of those words.
And, no, I don't, I think I like all those words.
So that should be at the beginning, cause that establishes the constitutional
So maybe let's
constitutional
put that
rights.
as the first one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like
I think
that.
I would put that as the first
Okay.
one.
Yeah, I think so.
And then, because we have, great schools here, people move here for education, thought we would refer to that and it would say somewhere. Whereas the town of Newcastle places a high value on education and fostering educational opportunities for all age groups, which is what a library does with its books.
But is that appropriate for us to say instead of a school board? Cause we don't,
I think that is a
I
town
don't know, we
value.
don't have to put that in, I was just had some thoughts about what books do
I mean, we say books can inform, educate, and entertain readers of all ages and expand our understanding of people with different backgrounds, ideas, and beliefs.
Right, so I guess that covers education.
Yeah, I think less is more here too, to be
Yeah,
perfectly
it's- yeah.
honest.
Yeah, I mean, we're already adding from
Yeah.
Holly's draft here, so we don't have to add more just for the sake of adding.
So I think then, unless anyone
Um,
has any other thoughts.
I just wanted to put one thing on number 4, which I don't know
Which is
what the
number
number is
4.
anymore.
Yeah.
What,
What's the word after whereas?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Just read
Books are
it,
for
tools.
Books are tools for understanding complex issues.
Mhm.
Somewhere I like the idea of critical thinking, so
Those are tools
I
for
thought we would put tools for developing critical thinking skills,
And understanding.
And develop,
understanding complex issues.
okay.
Okay. So,
That's it.
is that it?
Yeah.
Alright, so then. Alright, I have this written down, so if we're good, so I think what we're doing is we're adding one Vicky said about upholding the constitutional rights of citizens. Then we've got the original first whereas is number 2.
Foundational skill
Yep.
critical to future learning.
Yep, then Holly's, the freedom to read is essential. Then we continue with the 2 whereases we had. Then Holly's new one about intellectual freedom. Then the one that was there, but we're adding developing critical thinking skills. And then the next 2 are there, except we're changing the public access.
Mhm.
Then the one after that's there, then we're deleting Holly's proposed add there. And then keeping the first resolved and adding in the second resolved supports and.
Okay.
That's great.
Good?
It's great.
Alright, I have it for
Oh, I
Okay,
just
that
wanted
was
to
very
throw-
collaborative, thank you.
Can I just
You're
throw
gonna
out?
read that for us tonight.
Probably. I know I just wanted to also mention something that I came upon just so that you guys knew. There's a banned books week every
Yes.
year, and this year it doesn't coincide with the book festival, but it's adjacent. It's the week of October 1st through the 7th. So I don't know if we wanna maybe have another conversation when we get closer to October about it.
Okay.
I apologize to all, I mentioned I had a hard stop at 7:35, so I have to leave. I don't know if there's anything controversy. It was at work with the majority here, so I apologize to all,
Okay,
alright?
That's okay.
alright, bye.
Thanks, Ruby. Bye.
Okay, so now we just have administrative items.
And the board should just, the board should just let me know whether or not there's any questions or any clarifications that you need. Adoption of monthly reports, we've got authorization to use town property both for wedding parking. So
What was
it's
that?
a weekend, someone just wants to, it's very nice that they ask, we allow free parking on the weekends, so we're just letting them know, and what I was hoping for was,
This is in the train station?
it's in the train station.
As long as they're not having the wedding in the
No,
train.
they're not having a
Where are they
wedding.
getting married?
They're getting married in town at somebody's home, but they don't want there to be 40 cars along their road, so they wanted their guests to be able to park
Have
here.
like a
And
shuttle
so,
bus or something?
I was just gonna check with recreation and with the farmers market to make sure that wherever they were parking, that we would give them a designated area so that their cars would be kind of off to the side and not be in the middle of our farmer's market or not be in the middle of whatever event we were having, whatever. People can park wherever they want.
right,
It was very nice that they asked, so, well,
okay.
give you permission.
Best wishes to them.
Yeah, really, how lovely is that?
Do they
Um,
need someone to marry them? Cause that was so fun.
I don't know, you may give some,
I loved that.
you have some competition, we've got other officiants here.
It
Just
it
to let you
was, it's
know.
awesome.
It really is the best part of the job.
is.
Yeah, town minister.
Yeah, I married
Officiant, I
people, it was
believe is
great.
the proper word, officiant.
Efficient.
Okay, Girl Scout Brownie Troop, 2739, just letting you know, Girl Scout cookies are coming. We need authorization to solicit bids for water maintenance materials and DPW. We are asking for authorization to extend the purchase and installation of other highway materials. Specifically underground services, another one for ShareCorp. This is just the extension of contracts that we had where we have 1-year extensions on them. Next is to enter into CCSD, an agreement with CCSD for 2023 summer tots camp. We're gonna be using one of their schools again. We've got street opening permit bond releases, 2 of them for 2 of Tavalacci's properties. Got requests for the school vote in May, Strawberry Festival, and there are some 2022 budget transfers. Is there anything else, any questions that the board has?
Anyone?
No, thank you.
All right, we can move on to the town board meeting.
So can I please have a motion to adjourn the work session, open the town board meeting?
Motion to adjourn the work session, and to open the work session.
I second.
The town board meeting, sorry.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, welcome again. Welcome back. We are now starting the official town board meeting session for Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. So Jill, I'd like to start. Are there any announcements?
I actually don't. The only thing I did wanna mention is that town and county taxes, Christina's office, the tax office are busy preparing and they'll be mailed out April 1 this year because April 30th falls on a Sunday. There's actually an extra day to pay without penalty, which will be Monday, May 1st, but we'll be filling you in on all the details as soon as they're mailed, but it'll be in a couple weeks.
Perfect. And just to remind everyone in advance that you can post date checks. So if you want to pay and make sure that it's not on time, that it's on time and you don't incur a penalty, you can always post date a check and it will be held for you in the clerk's office until the date that it's dated.
Yes, and we have a Dropbox downstairs. Also, there's it's just a reminder, we have Dropbox downstairs, the lobby's open 24/7. So it's even quicker than going to the post office, you don't need postage, it's locked and it's under camera. So that's how I suggest people do it if they're going to mail it. If not, we love to see people, so I'm happy to receive them, they come.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing for my supervisor's report tomorrow. You'll have to wait with bated breath to read it tomorrow. And nothing today for the community corner. So anything else from the town administrator, Jill? Okay, perfect. So then we are gonna move right to public comment and new business. Anyone? Come on up, hang on.
Okay.
Well, Tom, we have that, if you wanna wait till the next section. All yours. Yeah.
I just wanted to make a public comment to say how much we support the folks that get things done in this town. They do amazing work. And that we need to support them every way we can so that they can help us help them. And by that, I'm just saying, thank you again.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone online who has a public comment?
No hands are raised.
Okay, thank you. All right, so our next thing that was on the agenda was to just have a public hearing with regard to our CSEA contract. Regarding, well, really the fact finders report and recommendation in regards to negotiation between the town and our Civil Service Employees Association. However, we are not having that public hearing tonight because we are happy to report that the CSEA has overwhelmingly ratified a memorandum of agreement in which it accepted the fact finders reports and recommendation. Since the town is also in agreement to accept the fact finders report and recommendation, it's no longer necessary to proceed with that scheduled hearing. And instead, the town board will be considering a resolution tonight to approve the memorandum of agreement, thereby settling a contract and setting a new contract with the CSEA for the period of January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2027. And I know I speak on behalf of the board and everyone in our town when we say we are so happy this was resolved and we look forward to working together to serve the residents of our community together. So thank you, and I know there are a couple employees here who are part of the union, so if you, I'm assuming you wanna come say something, so come on up.
Good evening all. Tom DePaul, Vice President of our local CSEA chapter. I'm here with Brittany Nider, our treasurer. We're here to thank the board and the town administration for working with us and seeing us through this trying ordeal. It's both educational and inspirational at the same time. And we appreciate the board putting through an offer that was acceptable to all parties and we could get through this in a timely manner.
Great.
Most of them.
And you know, I just want you to know and please relay it to everybody that, you know, we value you guys so much and our employees are so respected and we could not be the phenomenal town that we are without the work that you all put in every single day. So I know that I'm very happy that we were able to get this done and move forward, and now we don't have to talk about it again until 2007. 27.
Thank you.
So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, great. So then moving on, really just to resolutions, unless there's anything else, Jill or Ed, we need to discuss tonight? Okay, so before we move to the consent agenda, was there anyone who wanted to take anything out of the consent agenda items?
I have a quick question. I probably know the answer, but Ed, this might be for you. In the consent agenda is approval of a banner request for Community Day, which is the Rotary Club of Chappaqua, which I'm currently the president. Should that come out and I abstain, or is it just fine?
I think you can vote on it.
Okay.
It's very routine, and
I
I
assumed so.
understand.
And frankly, the
There's no-
Rotary pays us for the banners,
That's
so
right.
we're not expending money on
Thank
behalf of the
you.
Rotary.
That's true. That's
There's no contract that you would have an pecuniary interest in, so yeah.
I thought I knew the answer, but I figured it was best just to say it out loud.
No, good,
Thank you.
good catch. All right, so let's move to resolutions.
Okay.
Holly, you wanna start? The consent
Yes,
agenda?
yes. I move to adopt the consent agenda as submitted, consisting of the following. Do I read them all?
I don't think you have to read
As
them all,
listed.
you can say a
As
set for
listed in the
ordinance.
agenda?
As listed, yeah.
As listed in the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that we adopt the following resolution. Whereas Newcastle Police Department requested the hiring of a new police officer and interviews were conducted. And whereas the resolution was adopted on February 28th, 2023, authorizing the hiring of Stephen Samuel to the position of fourth grade police officer within the Newcastle Police Department at the annual salary of $75,573, effective April 3rd, 2023. And whereas Officer Samuel has since accepted an offer with Westchester County and informed the Chief of Police that he has rescinded his acceptance of the job offer, now it therefore be it resolved that the record may indicate that Stephen Samuel will no longer be considered for the position, and be it further resolved that the chief of police will continue with the search of interviewing and hiring the position of one fourth grade police officer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sure. I move to accept the resignation of Andrew McFadden from the position of part-time parking officer, enforcement officer within the Newcastle Police Department, effective March 25th, 2023. The town would like to thank Drew for his almost 13 years of dedicated service.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and thank you so much.
And I move to authorize the hiring of Christopher Hernandez to the position of part-time parking enforcement officer within the Newcastle Police Department at the hourly rate of $20 per hour, effective March 22nd, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to accept the retirement of Michael Molnar from the position of heavy machine equipment operator within the Department of Public Works. The town would like to thank Mike for his 35 years of dedicated service. Thank you, Mike.
Yes, thank you, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
I move to authorize the hiring of Andrew Brown to the position of seasonal laborer within the Department of Public Works Highway Unit at the hourly rate of $16 per hour, effective April 17th, 2023.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to accept the proposal from Creighton Manning Engineering LLP for transportation engineering and parking review services scoped under Task 1 for an initial review lump sum of $3,000 with additional reviews and presentations being charged on a time and materials basis as per the proposal dated December 16th, 2022.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do you wanna read this one?
Sure.
Do you want me to or my,
I'm happy to read.
can you read my writing? It's a little messy. This one goes first and second.
Okay, I will check, yes. Okay. I move to adopt the following resolution on the anti-book ban resolution. Okay, whereas the town of Newcastle is committed to uphold the Constitutional rights of the citizens to the free exchange of ideas and access to knowledge and information. Whereas reading is a foundational skill critical to future learning and to exercising our democratic freedoms. Whereas the freedom to read is essential to our democracy and reading is among our greatest freedoms. And whereas the town of Newcastle is home to the Chappaqua Children's Book Festival. Whereas books can inform, educate, and entertain readers of all ages and expand our understanding of people with different backgrounds, ideas, and beliefs. Whereas intellectual freedom is essential to the preservation of a free society and a creative culture. Whereas books are tools for developing critical thinking skills and understanding complex issues. Whereas limiting people's access to books does not protect them from life's complex and challenging issues and limits the range and variety of inquiry and expression on which our democracy and our culture depend. Whereas removing and banning books from, sorry, Lisa.
What? From
From
public
public
access, we
access.
need to.
Okay. Removing and banning books from public access may lead to government censorship and the erosion of our country's commitment to freedom of expression. Whereas book bans and censorship run counter to some of our country's founding principles and most cherished freedoms. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Newcastle stands united against book bans. And be it further resolved that the town of Newcastle supports and respects the right of all residents to access a variety of books in schools, in libraries, in bookstores, online, and elsewhere.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to adopt the following resolution. This is this one. Whereas encouraging civic participation, fostering transparency, and ensuring timely and effective communications with residents are longstanding priorities of the town board. And whereas the town board wishes to establish a new advisory committee known as the Civic Engagement Advisory Board that will explore opportunities to improve the town's communications with residents and encourage greater civic participation in town initiatives, policymaking, and volunteerism. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby establishes the Civic Engagement Advisory Board, which shall be comprised of up to 10 members in staggered terms and may include one or more students. And be it further resolved that, subject to further review and consideration, the objectives and mission of the CEAB shall tentatively include: 1. Evaluating existing and emerging technologies as well as best organizational practices to help residents connect and work effectively together on town volunteering efforts. 2. Reviewing and recommending information technology tools like best survey software. 3. Collecting and sharing best practices in promoting civic engagement among other town advisory boards and groups. 4. Surveying best practices to encourage civic communication, participation, and volunteering within the town. 5. Making recommendations to the town board on improving the town website and social media used to promote civic engagement. 6. Developing initiatives and practices to encourage civic engagement among town residents to promote civic participation in town governance. And 7. Performing outreach to neighborhood groups, homeowners associations, and across Newcastle's hamlets to encourage civic engagement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Holly, you wanna do number 9?
Yes, I move to adopt the following resolution. Whereas negotiations have been ongoing between the bargaining team for the town of Newcastle, the town, and the bargaining team for the Civil Service Employees Association Incorporated, Local 1000, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, the CSEA, for a successor to the January 1st, 2016 to December 31st, 2020 agreement between parties. And whereas those negotiations have resulted in a tentative agreement contained in a memorandum of agreement dated March 21st, 2023, which has been ratified by the membership of the CSEA. And whereas the town board of Newcastle has reviewed the terms of the memorandum of agreement and finds that a settlement consistent with the terms contained therein is in the best interest of the town. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Newcastle hereby approves and ratifies the terms of the aforementioned memorandum of agreement and hereby authorizes the town supervisor or the town administrator to execute a collective bargaining agreement consistent with the terms thereof.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And for the record, I abstained from voting.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That one.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy spring.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Good, you were right.